Hi, everybody, and welcome to Best Podcast Ever, where three idiots you don't know talk about a hobby you've never heard of. However, that three people thing is just becoming more and more of a lie every time we do these.
Yeah, maybe we should just stop saying that. Although, well, Kevin now tells us that he will be available perhaps in a week's time, although that is not our episode schedule. So,
and I'm already planning on being here in 2 weeks to deal with some fun travel stuff. So I'll be back. Although we do have a third co-host here. Good thing we're doing another visual gag.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, yes. Hello, Kirby.
Okay, so this week, guys, we're going to talk a little bit about building your own track and going from, just the one on the floor that you kind of play around with to what me and Mike kind of did now. And personally, I can talk a little bit more about setting up a track in a professional setting in the store, as well as the tub,
Right.
which I'm sure we'll get into very fondly shortly.
Oh, yes.
But let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about what I meant by the thing behind us. We just took a Carrera track, best track ever, has received an upgrade.
Yes.
Mike went out and bought seemingly random pieces of MDF.
Yeah, I took very careful measurements, and I wrote down...
Of what?
I took very careful measurements of the space I wanted to cover. For some reason, like normally when I would do something like this, I would, of course, like any reasonable person, draw a picture and write the measurements down on the picture. But I didn't do that. I just wrote the measurements down and went to my local Home Depot and said, "Hey, Mr. Home Depot man, besides Kevin, who totally doesn't work there, can you cut me some MDF panels to these sizes?" Which they did do.
To their credit.
Which, yeah, if you go to a Home Depot that has a full lumber department, which is not my nearest Home Depot, they will do that, and they did that, and they gave me exactly what I asked for, and that was the problem. But
because we all know you shouldn't be trusted with any of this,
because they don't take the extra step of saying, "Are you sure that's what you want?"
Can you show me your work before we cut this?
Yeah, they don't really ask for proof that that's what you really want. So, but it worked. We made it work. We had to finagle a few of the pieces differently than I had intended.
Well, again, I would have loved to have seen the picture you drew where you're like, okay, this part's going to go here, this part's going to go here.
Well, that's what I didn't do. I did not draw a picture. I was tired last night. I said, oh, yeah, I need to do that because I'm going to get the pieces today. And, don't leave your homework to the last minute. This is what happens. So,
but really, it does show a good evolution of how the tracks really work, because we all start out with, and I mean me and you, where they were Tyco sets.
Oh yeah, I mean I
on a rug, which is what you're not supposed to do.
I had my first Tyco set in probably 1988, 89. Around the time Brian was born. That's our age difference. I had my Richard Petty racing set plus the head-to-head set of then up-and-coming IndyCar stars Michael Andretti and Alonso Jr. in their Chapa March and Chapalola, respectively. And I had those Tyco 440 X2s on a rug, and then eventually I got a piece of cardboard to put under it, and that was a good day because I stopped breaking my cars every time they went off the track.
Yeah, slot cars kind of work like vacuums. So when you have them on a rug, any fiber in the atmosphere, like in the local tri-state area, will find its way into your electric motor and just kill it immediately.
Yeah, and into the gears and everything. I mean,
seeing as how we are in a house with two cats, and
yeah. So, well, that was obviously a different house than I grew up in.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
There was a bird.
There was a bird, and then that was a different bird. I later, around the time I finished college, decided to clear out a large space in my mother's basement and build a better HO track, upgrading another floor track that I had built in high school. So that was based on the Tomy Super International race set that so many HO tracks in the 2000s were based on. And that is quite enormous. I started with a Monza layout of that on 2 folding tables, and then I expanded it to 4 folding tables. That is the
official unit of measurement.
Yeah, a Monza layout of international.
A Monza layout with numbers of folding tables. Mm-hmm. Numbers of folding tables, doors. Doors are very popular to put your track on.
Now it's on 4 folding tables, but I mean, I quit racing HO, and it's in my mother's basement, and I don't live there anymore, so...
Well, I mean, you can't prove that.
No, I can't. But this is a different basement.
We're living in someone else's basement now. Yeah, so you really hit on a couple of good points here. You're most commonly going to start on the floor, and everyone's like, we're only going to need it on the floor. Like, this is as far as this hobby's going to go. And then it turns into, you know what, why don't we go out and buy a folding table? And then it turns into, we don't use this ping pong table. We're going to put on the ping pong table.
We don't need doors on the rooms in our house. Let's rip them down.
And then it turns into some form of monster. Either it turns into the routed track, the custom routed track, right, with a custom-made table, yes, that V-Horse is so well known for, or, if you're really bad with money, it turns into a tub.
Right.
So, the tub, for all one of you who's listening to this who doesn't know what we're talking about...
Hi, Kevin.
Sarah. Let's be honest, the only person who's going tub is Sarah.
Mm.
And the tub was really it wasn't a giveaway by Aurora. You had to buy it, but there were only 250 of them, and I don't think 250 were not sold. Significantly less than 250 were sold. And essentially it was just this self-determined layout in a fiberglass tub that you put model motoring lock and joiner track in.
Right. Which
the joke with that comes later. And you set it up, and it's 6 lanes, and you had it in your hobby shop, and it was to be essentially an attraction.
It was a demo installation, basically, and it was permanently in attract mode because it was very colorful, and you would hopefully have...
In theory, they come in 3 colors, but
But the colors that it does come in are obnoxious anyway.
Well, because I've seen yellow ones. Mm-hmm. I've seen many yellow ones. I've even seen orange ones.
Yes.
But I've been told they come in green, and I don't know if that's the original color.
I've only ever seen yellow and orange.
I've been told they come in green, and Aurora was known for doing silly colors, and I can see someone at Aurora saying, why don't we do green, because it'll look like grass.
I was going to say green would actually make too much sense, because, I don't know, I mean, I realize we've touched on this. The slot car hobbyist doesn't necessarily care about real racing.
Realism.
But how many racetracks have you ever seen on TV or in person where the track is black and the surrounding area is yellow or orange? I mean,
it was the 60s.
Maybe so. Laguna Seca is brown.
Well,
yeah, there we go.
Best track ever at Laguna
Sonoma
Seca
is brown. But for the most part, if you're looking at a road course, it's going to be
in the middle of a field.
A combination of green and then like some beige sand traps. Unless you're talking about, Paul Ricard is coming back onto the F1 schedule next year, which invented the paved runoff, and they've had it since the 70s, and they, up until F1 stopped running there in the 90s, they would change the color of the paved runoff areas just by repainting it constantly. So, sometimes it would be blue, it would just be totally wacky.
So, because my dad's track is yellow, mm-hmm, he has a black insert, and he never repainted the Aurora. But switching gears slightly to the TKO track in the NJ Hobby, do you want to know the original colors, what that was supposed to be?
Do tell.
NJ Hobby yellow and sky blue. So the track was going to be sky blue, and the inserts were going to be yellow, because he wanted it to be on brand.
How is the blue on brand?
Okay, so...
The yellow would have been on brand.
Technically, NJ Hobby's colors are not yellow and black, despite the fact that a lot of the stuff is yellow and black.
Oh, that's true. The sign is blue.
Yeah, it's yellow and blue. The official NJ Hobby colors are yellow and blue. The joke is the graveyard shift is yellow and black, because when the sign turns on...
Right. That's pretty funny, because the old sign was also black on yellow, which is why...
No, the old sign is white on black.
That's right. The old sign was black
on white. Yeah, black on white.
How did? Oh, you know what? I guess. Oh, the business cards were black on yellow, and then I made new business cards for free because NJ Hobby is unpaid intern myself. Those were also black on yellow.
Why didn't we make those blue again?
Just nobody ever mentioned it to me. This is the first I'm hearing of it. And then that design went on to the
You wanna know
custom pens.
Yeah, you want to know what's funny? Actually, everything that's been NJ Hobby has always been yellow and black.
Yeah,
other than,
every branded item at NJ Hobby that is not the sign
other
outside
than the official
store.
colors, which is hilarious.
That's pretty funny. I've never seen any NJ Hobby branding that was blue. I didn't know that was the intent. I've only been going there consistently for about 20 years and on and off for 25 plus.
It just goes to show you how much we don't know how to run a company at NJ Hobby.
Yeah, well.
And it really does put you in a very awkward situation where you're base yellow, because we are base yellow.
Yes.
We're base, like, monochrome, out there yellow.
I mean, I shifted it for ease of reproduction to actual process yellow. Like, at some point it had been the color of the tub.
Yeah.
Which is a little bit warmer, but...
Well, it's a little bit warmer, and the tub was repainted when it was refurbished, so now it's Lamborghini yellow.
Now it's Lamborghini yellow.
Yeah.
But in order to make it easier, this is very exciting because now we're talking about, business cards.
Local jokes!
But, I mean, at the time that I made this business card design is when the shift from from business cards to magnets happened, because the business cards are magnets. And that's when Vistaprint first came on the scene, and they were doing process color, and everything before that was based on this is the color of the paper and the ink is black.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that would have been a good time to change it to blue on yellow, but anyway.
So, before we used Vistaprint, actually, we did have a local card maker.
Yeah.
And it's hilarious how much more expensive it was.
Oh, yeah.
We did the same thing with the trophies, bringing it back to slot cars. We used to get trophies from a local guy for the big races. We have Brass Wars, we have the JJ race, and we have the Mike Pisano race that we actually get legit trophies for. And for the longest time, we used to get the trophies locally.
Yeah.
But nowadays, it's like...
Well, yeah, I deal a lot with custom printing and promotion.
We might have to order the ribbons again. I have no idea if they still have that silk screen for that ribbon.
Oh, you have the silk screen,
yeah.
You can just find some place to have them made.
Yeah.
And I have the artwork somewhere.
It's been like 15 years. I'm sure we can
No,
redo
it hasn't been that long, because it's actually... I came upon a copy of the artwork on my computer at work, and I've only been there for 10, so... It's probably been about 10, though.
It's been about 10 years, yeah. That's another part of bringing it back on topic, which we've joked about how bad we are at this, but we might as well bring it back.
Sure.
So for the NJ Hobby track, which currently is a TKO, essentially custom routed track, which is really the pinnacle of I've decided to make a terrible life decision and buy a very expensive track. Because going back to the original, we have track on the carpet, followed by track on something else, followed by track elevated.
Right. Followed by track elevated, and then with some sort of substrate to
custom built table.
Yeah.
And then custom built track.
Right.
In your custom built table.
Right.
And you're like, oh wait, how much is this track? Thousands of dollars.
Yeah. You could build a real racetrack for that.
We could certainly be doing better than we're doing now for that. And then, to make it even more fun, we have the custom made. And this one's legitimately custom made. It was made in one of the racers' garages, the 132nd track.
That's true. Hand built, lovingly built.
And my favorite part about all of this is the pinnacle of tracks are the ones that are not customizable.
That's true. Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't think you're going to change your layout, but
probably not much. No, probably not much.
I mean, that's another thing. When you start to get into this being your hobby and you building your track, for some reason the customization of track goes away. Everybody builds their layout, and then they never edit it ever again.
Well, because it's really annoying to do that. Like, once you've said, okay, this is the space I'm operating in, and this is the surface I'm building upon, and, frankly, when you're dealing with track pieces, and you have a limited number of radii and straight lengths to work with...
As opposed to being locked in permanently?
Well, you've struck gold once you get the two ends of your track to meet. I mean, there is track planning software that's all for Skeletric. So
there's one for Carrera.
It's terrible.
It's in German, and it's
in
bad.
German, and it doesn't work very well. I tried it. It really doesn't work very well. So I ended up winging it when I came up with this layout.
With best track ever, yeah.
It was a lot of trial and error because the tables weren't in place yet. one of the tables was in place, so I was working on the floor under the table to see if it locked up.
I remember once for Christmas, I asked my dad if I could just have a bunch of model motoring track, just so I could see what it was like to use the original lock and joiner. Mm-hmm. And again, because we're in an audio medium, let me explain lock and joiner real quick. So if you're familiar at all with slot cars, you're probably familiar with the pieces of plastic track that push together somehow.
Right, depending on your
and have some sort of locking mechanism.
Some sort of tabs or whatever.
The original model motoring track, you had these two metal bars that went in like some sort of, what are they called? Dowels.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you have the two metal dowels that go in, and then you literally had this either made of lead, because haha, 60s. It was literally a hunk of lead, or it was a piece of plastic that broke immediately. I mean, lead or plastic, pick your poison here, folks. Mm. And you would shove it in the middle of the track, and that's how you would keep it together. And I remember sitting there, and I was trying to build this, like, cool, because I had gotten, like, cobblestone tracks, and I had gotten, like, all different types of turns, because...
well, they made the cobblestone track in the original AFX format also, the side lock.
Yeah.
Now, the first large layout I ever built, I built with a friend of mine when we were in middle school, and it was just his entire, like, it was just a floor layout, but it was just, we just kept going back to Engine House. This is actually when I started going there regularly.
And buying all the adapters.
And buying, because we wanted all the gimmick tracks, but they were all different brands, so.
And what's funny is, at least with the track that I ended up building, is I tried to make this crazy track, and I think I literally ended up with just like a square with crossover pieces.
Because the limited choice of turn radii make it very hard to line your track up. Like, you think you're going to make it work, but, the rigidity of the medium keeps you pretty honest. I mean...
And you kind of touched on a good topic, too, which is different track brands. Mm-hmm. Because... a radius one turn in Scalextrics is not a radius one turn in Carrera, is not a radius one turn in Ninko, is not a radius one turn in
everything is arbitrary.
I'm not done. Is not a radius one turn in Tomy, is not a radius one turn in Model Motoring, is not a radius one turn in Tyco, is not a radius turn in Lifelike. Mm-hmm. So, and we actually learned this lesson pretty hard in a track that was in my dad's garage. That was made out of Tyco track, because at the time, Tyco was the best track. Yeah. And then Joseph was going to rebuild it, my older brother, in AFX track, because that was the best, the Tomy track. And he
and that was good track.
He really painstakingly remade everything, and he redid all the buildings, and it was like a half-inch off, caddy corner. Because the radii were different. It was such a heartbreak moment.
And there was really no way of seeing it coming until you came around that last turn, and you're like, this will work.
So, I mean, these days, we've obviously answered the question a couple times, but for folks who are listening to this episode first, for whatever reason, you've chosen Carrera track for a multitude of reasons, even though you prefer Scalextrics as a company, track-wise.
Track-wise, yeah. I chose Carrera track mostly because Brian said so. Well, because it is in a basement.
It's in a basement.
It has better corrosion resistance than...
It's no secret we're in New Jersey.
Yeah.
And basements in New Jersey are...
damp.
Yeah.
This one's very damp. Especially on a day like today. It's about 95 degrees and 95% humidity.
Points to windows.
Here in New Jersey. My basement is well air-conditioned, but we are looking at a basement window that is completely steamed up because it's so damp outside, which is lovely. That's how you know it's a great day.
That's why we're in a basement on a wonderful sunny day.
That's right. This is why God invented slot car racing. Because he also invented weather like this to tease you and make you think you want to be outside until you actually go outside.
And then you want to be anywhere else. But as far as tracks go, for the longest time, there was always a definitive winner. And now, at least, in 1/32nd, there are it depends moments.
Yeah, I mean, Scalextric probably, in some sense would have been easier to build in because it's a little bit more versatile.
Yeah, but you would have had to constantly rebuild it when all the track pieces
started to
rust.
Well, that's the problem. Yeah. There are more pieces available, and it's a little bit cheaper. And I could have maybe done a 4-lane layout in the space that the 2-lane layout is in because Carrera track is scaled to fit 1/24th cars. But I just didn't want to deal with the corrosion issue.
So the reason there's a corrosion issue for you folks who are lucky enough to never have dealt with this, Scalextric's track is nickel-plated steel, as opposed to Carrera, which just straight up uses stainless.
Yeah.
It is just stainless steel, so therefore it's not going to corrode.
Right.
In theory, it won't get that dirty, but I mean, there's always crap
The
on
rails
it.
stay pretty clean. I mean, the plastic gets as dirty as anything else, but the rails stay very clean, actually. I've had no issue with electrical pickup. So.
And Carrera track was designed relatively recently. I'm surprised Carrera doesn't change their track as often as they change like their chassis design or their front end or anything else that didn't need changing, but they decided to anyway.
Yeah, I mean, the track works so well, you would think they would have changed it.
They would have fixed it by now. So, but like if you remember original, first of all, I know for a fact you don't remember original Skeletrix track. You remember...
I remember whatever was right before Skeletrix Sport.
I'm making a motion with my hand that says Carrera track.
Or it's Echo track. It's the same.
Yeah, it's the same locking mechanism where you have to put everything in at a 45-degree angle and then push it flat to the ground. But original Skeletrix track was made out of rubber.
Oh, see, that would have been really nice for...
Yeah, it was made out of old tire rubber, and whenever you find an original Skeletrix track these days, first of all, the rubber has destroyed the styrofoam.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure.
Second of all, it smells terrible.
Well, yeah, because it's tire rubber, which is extra stinky. I'm just, again, for those of you who can't see, which is all of you, my track loops around a column that holds up the ceiling down
The support beam, yeah.
And when I opened up a Carrera set about 2 years ago and built a primitive layout down here, I thought, this is a really cool way to use this wasted space because it fits perfectly between the column and the wall, like the width of the track. So when I then set out to expand it, I said, well, I'm keeping this feature at all costs. And that made it very difficult to build the rest of the layout.
That always seems to be the way, too, with... Whenever you're doing slot car, you find the one thing you want to do, and it seems like it doesn't fit in literally anything.
Yeah, it seems like the only way to make the layout meet is to abandon the thing you started with as what you wanted. But I held firm.
That's the joke with the tub that I was talking about, because the original tub track just used... I mean, they didn't design it to use every piece of Aurora track. That's not what they did. They just designed it to have elevation changes, fun turns, and a couple of S's.
It has a couple of off-camber turns. I mean, if you've never run on one, find one and run on it. It's fun. I mean, it's a pretty diverse layout. It's a pretty diverse layout. It's everything you would want a real-life racetrack to have. I mean, it has a banked turn.
Pseudo-bank.
Sort of banked. It's elevated. It has some S's with varying radii, including one of those S's has some adverse camber, which is kind of fun, particularly if you're running without magnets. Yeah, there's a little bit of everything packed into a pretty small footprint.
But the joke is that back straight needed a 5-inch straight.
Which they didn't make.
Well, no. Aurora made a 5-inch straight.
Oh.
Toby didn't make a 5-inch straight.
Yeah, nobody
Tycho
ever
didn't
made
make a
one
5-inch straight. Lifelike doesn't make it. Nobody makes an odd number.
Oh, that's why there was always a sawed-off piece when you would see one with Tommy track laid into it.
Because you'd have to make a custom piece. And actually, you were going to NJ Hobby long enough to remember when it wasn't Tommy track. It was Tycho.
I never ran on it when it was Tycho, but yes.
I still have some of the old pieces lying around. I have these keepsakes in my life, and I have no idea why. Because they don't mean anything to anyone.
Yeah, well, we all...
Like, I kept one of the original NJ Hobby signs. One of them was destroyed in Sandy. And it got thrown out. It was just a pile of plexiglass at that point. Yeah. But I kept one. It's nailed to the wall at NJ Hobby at ankle level for everyone to see.
Yeah, I know where it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have a couple pieces of the original track as well.
Okay.
The only reason you could tell it was pieces of the original track is because it has the white and red painter's tape on it. Or painter's... Another fun thing, when you have a track, you normally want to label the lanes somehow. Yeah. Now, here at Best Track Ever, we have lane 1 and lane 2. And when you have two lanes...
When you have a 2-lane layout,
it's pretty easy, to keep track. However...
Particularly when you're against two walls, so marshalling is basically not possible anyway.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to have to stop to marshal anyway.
But anywhere between, 4 and 8 lanes, and 8 lanes is the max I've seen in any slot car layout.
Yeah, including digital layouts, yeah.
Yeah, actually, we only made it to 4 lanes in our digital layout.
Right, but even the professional digital layouts I've seen, on the Slotted Facebook page, I've never seen them go up to 8.
Yeah, but when you have that many, you mark the lanes somehow, and normally you do it by color.
Yes.
And with the if you're just going to do it in your basement, I recommend going out to AC Moore.
Buying some paint pens.
Yeah, and just buying some paint pens, shaking it, putting it in the lane, and trace it.
For HO, don't do that in 132nd because you'll be painting on the rails. But
well, funny thing is, the way we did it when we had the Skeletrix track at NJ Hobby is a former employee who you know, but using our no-name rule, who is now a engineer for no-name rule, a aeronautics company.
Yes.
Actually sat down and took pieces of plastic from NJ Hobby, put 2 guide flags in it, and made a perfect thing so you could do it slightly off center.
That's right.
So they're
he did a great job of it.
Well,
kind of
literal aerospace engineer.
Yes. But that's free advice. If you have a Skeletrix track to do that on, you can try that.
Well, if you have a Skeletrix track, again, all you're doing is finding a way to offset yourself constantly to the lane and use essentially a paint pen. Because these days, the high-end tracks have the lanes... Essentially, there's a wire that doesn't do anything. It's a wire that's just a wire color that exists in the lane so that you know what's what.
It's just embedded in
there, yeah. Mike, do you know the official lane colors in order?
I know that.
And then there's the NJ Hobby swap.
I know it's not what it is at NJ Hobby because this was always like a thing when we would go to the regional events. And it would be like, you crazy NJ Hobby jerks who do it wrong. And it's like, well, I didn't invent this.
It was TKO because even the tub has it correct.
Oh, it was correct.
So
so it was inside out, yellow, blue, orange, green.
Yes. But it's opposite.
White, red.
Yeah.
And then, that's right, the TKO track had it wrong.
The TKO had orange and green transposed. And the guy's like, oh, oops, sorry. I'm not going to fix it.
He's out of business, right?
Yeah, I think he's out of business.
Okay.
I don't want to say why he went out of business.
If he's not, then we apologize.
I don't think he's alive.
Well, if he's alive and still in business, he's great. So we're not trash-talking him at all. Okay.
Well, it's funny because we had a Bowman insert made for the tub track.
Yes.
Again, Bowman is in business, and I'm just going to say it didn't go well. That's all I'm going to say about the Bowman insert for the tub track.
There were some measurement issues,
Yeah, let's not go too far into that. It didn't work, but I still have the Bowman insert.
And it's working now, but there were some teething issues.
Oh my god.
To put it mildly, yes.
And then there's the TKO track in NJ Hobby, which was designed by a customer on the back of a receipt.
Was it really?
Yes. So what happened was, and again, I want to give the guy credit, but I don't want to say his name because of the no-name rule. Because I don't know if he wants to be mentioned on this. Essentially what happened was my dad was sitting down and he goes, I want an overpass. But I'm trying to do an overpass and have the same number of inside-outside lanes.
Right, well the overpass should help you with that, in theory.
Yet, 132nd track.
Okay, well, yes. But that should be a coward's way out for doing that.
So essentially my dad wanted an overpass because he just didn't want it to be flat anymore.
Okay, well the problem with the overpass on the current 132nd track is that it's all the way at one end of the layout, so it doesn't solve the problem. If you put it towards the middle of your layout, it should...
It just instinctually solves the problem.
I mean, because the fundamental layout with an overpass in it is a figure 8, in which every lane should be the same length, right? Because that solves the problem. Every lane then has one...
really long turn.
If you have 4 lanes, every lane has one long turn and one short turn. If you have if you have 6 lanes, the inner and outer lanes even out, and the middle lanes have...
Which, by the way, best track ever does not follow.
No, not at all, because it is a very right-handed track. There's one left turn in the whole track. It is the Lime Rock of Slycar.
Barely a left turn, too.
Yeah, it's more of a left kink. The 2 main turns are both right-handed, but it's a short layout, and... It's, I had designed it with an overpass, and then I got tired of trying to make it fit, so...
Well, now that you actually have a good enough table, I'm sure the layout can change a little bit. But yeah, so the NJ Hobby layout was designed on the back of a receipt, essentially just to have it be even, and then the opposite of that is the 132nd layout, where, like you said, because of where the overpass is, we had to essentially eliminate the S's.
Yeah, so two of the lanes currently have severe S's.
One has semi-S's and one has none.
One has like a normal racing line through a series of S's, which is, where you straighten the apex out as much as possible. And then the other lane to equalize, and frankly it works because the best lane to race in is now the longest lane. Just straight lines the S's.
Well, it's
completely.
the best lane to race in magnetless.
Correct.
in Magneted, where those cars are either on or off, it's binary.
Yeah.
Yellow continues to be the best lane.
Yes.
Then again, we only run like 2.
We run very few magnet races anymore, and we personally run very few.
Giant air quotes, box stock, high impact Scalextrics.
Yeah.
And I still enjoy Trans Am. Trans Am is the popcorn movie of slot car racing.
That it is, and I wish that I enjoyed it as much as I used to, but I haven't had. The thing with that is that you have a car that works or you don't, and I haven't had a car that worked in a while.
Yeah, because somehow, and we went over this, and I hate to bash on Scalextrics again, they proceeded just to make their cars worse and worse.
So I have a very old car that worked really well, but the motor in it died. So I thought, I'll just get a new car, but everything about the new car sucks.
Everything about the new car is different, and you're like, oh, okay, they're using the new guide flag, therefore the chassis could be lower to the track.
But it's not.
And I guarantee you the next Trans Am I see, whether it be a Camaro, Mustang,
the newest release,
Cuda, is going to be inline.
Isn't the Javelin inline?
Oh yeah, it is inline, isn't it?
Yeah, they switched to inline just for shiggles.
Hi, Scalextrics. I'm talking to you directly now. I'm going to take
doing everything you do.
Why?
Scalextric would do very well to do the George Costanza advice, and whatever they think they should do, just do the opposite.
Yeah. There's so many moments where I look at Scalextrics as of late and just ask why. And then you look at like not Scalextrics, you look at Slot It and you're like, okay, do more. You look at NSR and you're like, do better.
Right.
You look at Ninko and you shrug and you walk away because there's no saving that ship. And I think we've long abandoned buying a Carrera.
Yeah,
car.
we don't even talk about Carrera. The track is fine, but their cars are... I mean, aside from the sick joke that they keep making cars that I want a slot car of, they're just not good. So.
I mean, it wouldn't be called a slot car. It would be like electric toy car analog.
Yes.
It's not a horse. It's a horse-like pull cart animal.
Yeah.
It's...
I want a 1/32 model of that car that
goes around the track. That I'm not winding up. Yeah.
But for all intents and purposes, because... Yeah.
Car-like electric novelty,
Pasteurized processed American cheese food.
Yeah.
They have to tell you it's food, that's how you know it's good.
Mechanically separated chicken parts of the slot car world. Somewhere Kevin is making a Macho Man voice and he doesn't know why.
Yeah, somewhere. He's snapping into a Slim Jim, no doubt.
He's slapping into a Slim Jim. You want to know the best part about today is we probably could have called him to be part of the podcast because it's a Saturday.
I did think of that. I mean, he's not working. He's just not here. And I thought of that earlier in the week when we were planning to do this. We were doing this on a Saturday. We usually do these on Friday evenings. And yesterday, while I was at work, I thought, we should call Kevin and get him into the show. And then Brian needed to reschedule for this afternoon, and I completely forgot about that. So, Kevin, I'm sorry that we've excluded you. He was in our group text acting offended that we rescheduled outside the group text. I thought I was saving him some buzzing of his phone, but
I don't know. We were all just getting the best news ever about this weekend. Yesterday was a pretty bad day. We won't get into it, but
no.
Oh man, I'm so glad to be talking about anything else.
Lots of fun stuff happened in the real world.
Real world? What's that? I'm in somebody's basement. I'm waiting for the sun to go away in your basement.
But yes, reality interfered briefly in our world where we sit around talking about playing with toys. We don't even play with toys. Like, that's how far removed we are from real life.
That is the ultimate evolution of a slot car collector. It really is.
Yeah, in that we've stopped playing with the toys and now we just talk about the toys.
Yeah, so again,
I don't want to be in this echelon of slot car collecting. I want to go play with some toys.
going back to the evolution of a slot car enthusiast, you start with the track on the floor, and then something under the track, and then you elevate the track, and then yada yada yada. You get to the custom-made layout. Mm-hmm. The most renowned slot car enthusiasts in the world very rarely pick up a controller.
That's true.
Owner of NJ Hobby,
Yes.
Rarely does he get to pick up a controller.
This is true.
Writer of, again, no name rule, but writer of that Aurora compendium that everybody buys.
Yes.
I have never seen him with a controller. And it seems after a while, and that's why I stopped doing the vintage video games the way I used to.
Yeah.
You buy them just to have them, and it's no longer about playing with them.
No, it's just having it so someone else can. Which is why I guess the ultimate step would be to like dig a big hole and just throw all the stuff in it.
I don't know
make
if
other collectors watch.
It's one of those jokes where there's no museum for this stuff.
Right.
So everyone's like, I'm going to be that guy. I'm going to be the guy you go to and you see everything. But because, like you said, you have it, therefore somebody else can't, and there are one-offs.
Right.
There are one-offs and two-offs and five-offs. Nobody has a complete collection of slot cars, even something as simple as Aurora slot cars.
Yeah, even once you narrow it down to one brand, it's never going to happen.
It's impossible.
Because there are too many oddities. In part because it never... Even when it was a pretty big mass market toy, it was still being done by companies that were small enough that they would be like, hey, you know, it would be fun, let's do a one-off.
And there's one-offs, and there's things that people can't prove if they're real or not. To
Right.
take a slightly different step into action figures, there is a He-Man toy called the Wonder Bread He-Man. They don't know if it's real or not.
So what is...
So essentially, the idea was Wonder Bread and whoever made the Masters of the Universe cartoon... Kenner.
Well, Kenner made the toys, and... You know, again, this is the TV of my generation, where cartoons were just vehicles for toys.
So essentially, it was a He-Man with different color armor.
Yeah.
And
the colors of Wonder Bread.
There exists advertisements, and I'm doing air quotes for those who can't see me, for this
everyone except me,
for this mail-away He-Man.
Okay.
And nobody knows if it's real.
So nobody knows if they ever actually did the promotion.
Nobody knows if this promotion happened. Nobody knows, because there was no internet, there was no heavy documentation of this.
Right, so it would have been on Wonder Bread packages sometime in the 1980s.
Yeah.
Which are obviously all in the garbage somewhere.
Yeah, because people save everything. Right. Nobody saves a bread bag.
No, nobody's going to say, I'm going to save this bread bag to document not sending away for the Wonder Bread He-Man.
Exactly. And it's hard to tell if it was real or not. Right. And the reason I told
Wonder
this story...
Bread has changed hands several times since then, so probably nobody actually remembers.
And the reason I tell this story is the accidental NJ Hobby lifelike story. So, my dad, the owner of NJ Hobby, knew a lot of people in the toy industry. And one of the guys he knew was a toy prototyper. These people exist, and what they do is they create something based off of... Back in the day, it would have been a couple lines of text.
Right.
You know, make so-and-so NASCAR.
Yep.
And he would just... make something, he'd put it in the package, and he would make a prototype, and he would hand it to whoever commissioned him, and they would go to the board and they say, should we make these?
Should we make this toy? Yeah.
So, my dad had a Hooters NASCAR commissioned, and he gave him the cars, and he gave him the decal sheets, and he goes, make these cars, make these cars, make these cars, and we all know why Hooters never got a toy.
Right.
Everybody listening to this recording right now knows exactly why Hooters never got a slot car.
Right, which... Despite being on a championship-winning NASCAR in 1992, not exactly a kid-friendly brand.
So, 2 of these were made. And when he brought them back, this was not the intention, but it's what happened. He brought them back in the package. Because he was a prototyper and he knew how to do that. He knew how to fake it.
Right.
And my dad went, oh, cool.
Right.
And he kept one, and he put the other one on the rack. He marked it as a custom.
Yeah.
But... whatever, he wasn't going to explain it. Like, the first person to walk in who says, oh, like you said, this car won the championship. I want this car.
Yeah.
So, there's a independently owned candy shop up the road from NJ Hobby. It's called Wallace's. I don't mind saying that because they're never going to hear this.
No. And, again, this is regional dialect. When we say a candy shop, they don't have, like, bins of candy. They have, like, a magazine rack and a soda fridge.
Yeah.
You would call it a convenience store, I guess, but, whatever.
There's nothing in there but candy and soda.
Yeah, it's just candy, soda, and magazines.
I don't even think they have condoms.
They used to have lottery, so...
They might still have that.
If you've ever played Simpsons Road Rage and Homer jumps into your car and wants to go to the Quickie Mart for wrestling magazines and lottery tickets...
The Quickie Mart has Slurpees.
Yeah, no, because the Quickie Mart is obviously supposed to be the 7-Eleven, but wrestling magazines and lottery tickets is literally all the store has.
Yeah.
So,
So he went up and he was going to get a candy bar, and probably that era was a Pink Lemonade Snapple, if I know the man.
Oh, yeah.
So he's probably just trying to get out of the store, because when you work alone at NJ Hobby, and I put a lot of hours alone at NJ Hobby, nowhere near the hours of my dad.
No, because he's been, I mean, it's been years since you did that with any regularity, and he has continued doing it 5 to 6 days a week.
Yeah. 7 and around the holidays.
God love him.
And
can't imagine.
He walks up and he buys a magazine that he doesn't carry. It was like a model magazine.
Yeah.
It was like, he's like, oh, I've never seen this magazine before. I'll buy this, my candy bar and my Snapple, and I'll walk back. And he sits down and he opens it up.
Spit take.
And pretty much. And he sees his Hooter car, the one he had commissioned.
My Hooters, they're in this magazine.
That's not a real Lifelike car. It's
Right.
something he had made.
Right.
And it was listed as an incredibly rare
Oh, my God. Yeah.
Lifelike car. And again, I have told this story to anybody who will listen to it.
Yeah.
It's not real. If you're a Lifelike collector and you're listening to this podcast and you're trying to find
ripping your hair out because you can't find this car.
the Hooters car, the Skull car,
They don't
the
exist.
Kodiak car,
Yeah.
these are all cars that exist in Lifelike packages,
Right.
in sealed Lifelike packages.
But they are not
But I
original products.
guarantee you they're fake.
Yeah. They are custom prototypes that were not intended for sale.
Well, no, they were intended for sale, but they were intended for sale as customs.
Right. They were not intended for sale by Lifelike, and they were not commissioned by Lifelike, so they're
Yeah, I
not
know, they
even
were
Lifelike
commissioned-
prototypes per se.
They're commissioned by, one dude in Scotch Plains, New Jersey. They were
Wow. So there was a Skull one as well.
Yeah.
And a Kodiak.
pretty much everything that was a car that somebody would want.
Budweiser.
I'm sure Budweiser exists.
Yeah.
I'm positive
Because,
Budweiser exists.
remember, this was the golden era of NASCAR sponsorships and racing sponsorships in general, being tobacco and alcohol. You could either smoke it, drink it, or put it in your car. That was the...
Yeah.
This was when money was flying around in the racing industry, because these were things that had a niche need for advertising, because tobacco couldn't advertise anywhere else. And, it was a sport with lots of visual advertising, so beer loves to advertise on sports. So there you had that, and it was cars, so you had car products.
And that just goes to show you there's so much out there that's real, but it's not.
Yeah, I mean, it's real.
I think I've talked about the Chrome. Have I talked about the Chrome Days of Thunder cars on the podcast?
Yes, we talked about that in our mobile episode.
Okay, yeah. So again, those are real, but they're not.
Right.
There's a lot of stuff in this industry that's look-alike,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna say Buzzin' Hornets, which is
Well, that was real. That ran on a real car.
those were actually look-alike wasn't real.
No, the BAR Lucky Strike livery that year, I think, said look left and look right, like British Cross.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I think look-alike was something that Tyco invented.
Tyco did, instead of saying Lucky Stripe.
Buzzin' Hornets was in the non-tobacco races when Jordan was sponsored by Benson and Hedges. The first year they were sponsored by Benson and Hedges, I think, was 97, and they had a snake on the nose of the car at all the races. But at the non-tobacco races, instead of Benson and Hedges, it said Bitten and Hisses.
Yes.
And then they changed it to a B, and it said Buzzin' Hornets. That is actually what it said. You can go back and look from 98 to 2000.
I have that Tyco car. Tyco made that in the generic. They weren't even Chapaloling anymore. They just made a not F1
Well, because
car.
after the Chapalola, they moved on to the... It looked a little like a McLaren, like MP46-ish, but the top, it was a two-piece body. Three. The wing, the side pods and nose, and then the engine cover, everything from the driver back basically was a separate piece that you could lift off, and there were two versions of it. There was a higher one that they used for F1 cars and a lower one that they used for Indy cars, because this was the turbo era of Indy car, and they didn't have the airboxes, so they made that nod to the fact that F1 cars and Indy cars were different, but they still...
Didn't do anything else.
But they said F1 cars are all the same and Indy cars are all the same. They just acknowledged that they weren't the same as each other.
We actually came up with a pretty good gag before we started recording today. And it's that, again, I'm pretty sure nobody outside of New Jersey is going to get this joke, But it's like saying it's an indie, it's an indie, it's an indie. Anything with open wheels is an indie is
Right.
like saying it's penny, it's penny, it's penny.
Yeah.
Any noodle tube is penny.
Right. Yeah. Take that, ZD. Take that, Mustacholi.
Yeah. It's angel hair, it's angel hair, it's angel hair.
Yeah. If it's a noodle that is not in ramen, all pasta is, all pasta can be called one shape of pasta, yeah. So.
See, now we have to make a pasta-themed F1 car.
Or we could just play a whole lot of Mario Kart, I guess.
I don't know. According to YouTube analytics, and while we're in the final 15 minutes here, that no one's going to be listening to, so we might as well become self-indulgent again.
Yeah, we're just going to be completely meta for the rest of this episode.
Nobody was interested in the video game episode. It's like our lowest viewed one. Now, that being said, we only get like 20 views.
Right.
So to have one at 15 is...
Yeah, that hurts. That hurts, the 5 of you. Go watch that one now. Please. Please.
He just likes his opening and closing jokes.
That's the only reason I do this, which is why, by the way, we keep putting these podcasts on a platform that's not, unless you are paying for YouTube Red. YouTube is not an ideal platform for podcasts because you can't close the app and keep listening to it.
I was going to say, oh my god, if somebody pays for YouTube Red and they're listening to our podcast, let me know who you are and we will talk to you directly for 30 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that would be great, actually. And there's lots of things you can spend money on besides YouTube Red. I mean, for instance, I would like to, now that I have the underlayment on my track, I would like to, decorate it a bit and make it a little bit more realistic, maybe put some buildings in even. So, if you like wasting money, you can do that.
Nothing will ever be a bigger waste of, and again, I think we've proven we're pretty bad with money here.
The fact
between the toy cars, and I've mentioned my vintage video game collecting, which I no longer do, based on a particular device that I'm going to see if I can make work, and if I can make work, I'm going to give one to you and Kevin.
Yes.
But
that
also...
will also cease my vintage video game collecting.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah. But also is my cardboard collection that's worth literal thousands of dollars.
Oh, yeah.
Because I suck with financial planning and I play Magic.
Right. Well, Yes.
So I'm gonna fill some dead air here. It seems as though we've had a minor miscommunication.
Oh, I'm ready. I was just shutting the door. I didn't want there to be any outside noise and affect the production value of the show. You might have noticed that the standard beep is gone.
Oh, the character, the beep, has been removed. It's been solved.
And I started while we're talking about being bad with money. Let me finish a story I started telling Brian before we went on. So the beeping, for those of you, I think Verizon Fios is only available in the Northeast, even though Verizon cell phone service is available everywhere. That's what I have for TV and internet. I don't use it for phone because why? But this house was wired for it when they first started installing it, and it was designed to support a phone, to support voice over IP that was just plugged directly into your jacks, so you didn't have to use a
landline.
You didn't, you wouldn't have to, if you wanted to continue having a landline, that, you wouldn't have to have a VoIP box that you plug your phone into. You could just plug it into your existing landline jacks, and they would interface with the network through the install that they did. So it wants to have a 12-volt lead acid battery in it to back up your phones so they will still work if the power goes out, because landline phones traditionally got their power directly from the network. So it was one of the earliest uses of phantom power, I suppose. But I don't have a phone connected to it.
No one has a phone.
No, so this is a useless feature, but the battery that was in there died, and every 15 minutes it would beep to warn me that if the power should go out, my phone wouldn't work, which my cell phone would still work unless the battery ran out.
And that's actually the joke I've been waiting to tell, which is we are in New Jersey, and we all did live through Hurricane Sandy,
Yes.
which involved not having power for about 2 weeks.
Depending on where you lived, yeah. I mean,
and you guys got evacuated. You were in Jersey City at the time.
We did not get evacuated. We got evacuated, interestingly, for Hurricane Irene, and nothing happened. And so they did not evacuate us for Hurricane Sandy.
Which is funny, because you guys lived by the water.
Yeah, no, we had some nasty flooding. I mean, we lived on a high floor, fortunately, so we weren't really affected that much. But my workplace, which is also nearby, was very badly flooded. There was a lot of damage. We were limited to using only certain parts of our space for a number of days, a number of weeks even.
That was the best Christmas gift ever, actually.
Yeah.
We had bought my dad a generator. And I was still living at home at the time. I was in grad school. And I just remember it was about a week and a half into this little social experiment, we'll call it. And I remember just trying to sit in the middle of a park to not hear generators going.
Yeah, because everyone who had one was running it.
And you know what? Let's bring it back to something humorous in the last 10 minutes here. The 2-stroke diesel indoor generator joke.
Kevin actually, when I texted Brian and Kevin yesterday to ask what we should talk about on today's show, Kevin said 2-stroke indoor generators from Harbor Freight, and here we are. So.
I mean, it's the last 10 minutes. The only person still listening is Kevin because he's not here.
Hey, Kevin, 2-stroke indoor generator.
So the joke with that is Kevin does work at. I mean, Mike's already said it, but I'll keep to the no name rule. God damn it! And he works at one of those big box hardware stores, and he does not work at Harbor Freight.
He does not. No.
And Harbor Freight
God for that.
is where people who can't afford Home Depot go to buy hammers.
Yes.
So you go to this truly bottom of the barrel hardware store.
I mean, let me put it to you this way. In New Jersey, at least, several of the Harbor Freights that I have seen are former Saturn dealerships.
Oh, God.
So, like, this is just like a box of despair.
It really is. You go in there, and they always have these massive ads in car magazines, and they just give you stuff.
Yeah.
Just show up to Harbor Freight, spend any amount of money, and we'll give you a flashlight.
If you've ever bought clothes from Joseph A. Bank, you know that when they are that desperate to get you in the store, you're getting what you pay for. So, hey, Joseph A. Bank lawyers, hi.
Hi, that's Mike. But yeah, no, Harbor Freight, for reasons I don't understand, they're not diesel, obviously, but they have 2-stroke generators.
Do they actually, or did we just make all
No. That's where that joke came from. Okay. We were in the Scotchwood Diner, a name I don't mind dropping, because again, that dude's never going to hear me.
No, and we love them. So.
Yeah, so we were in and I was mentioning how I was in a Harbor Freight recently, and I was looking at the generators because I was essentially waiting for a guy in the back to get me something I needed. Yeah. And I was looking at the generators, and they didn't have terribly big ones. I'm sure if it was the middle of a crisis, all of them would be sold out.
Right.
But the very lowest one was a 600-watt 2-stroke generator.
So if you wanted to like power your stereo on the beach but not be able to hear it because you had a 2-stroke generator running next to it,
so
here's your generator.
For those of you at home who don't understand the joke, there are 2 types of motors. Or engines, I guess. Engines.
Yes.
There's 4-stroke, which really has to be flat. And if you tip it, the oil's going to get into your combustion chamber.
Right, but that is, a 4-stroke engine is what's in your car, unless you drive a Sonnet. It's what's in some lawnmowers, but not all.
Most lawnmowers these days are 4.
Are 4-stroke. So those are your 4 strokes.
2 strokes, because they mix the oil and the gas, great for the environment. You can hold this thing upside down. You can hold it at an angle, and that's really what
juggle chainsaws.
Yes, chainsaws, weed whackers. Yeah. My snowblower.
A lot of snowblowers are still 2-stroke. I don't know why, but
mine's from 1994. What was the last? 1996 or 1994 was the blizzard.
Both. Though, 1993-4 was a very bad winter, but 96 there was a large blizzard in January, and then it just kept snowing every day for the rest of the winter. That was 95-96. So
yeah, so it was 95-96 is when they bought it, and it's still going, mind you.
Yeah.
But essentially, okay, so let's put ourselves in the head of a doomsday prepper here.
Yes.
I need a generator because the power's out. Mm-hmm. I also need oil because it's a 2-stroke generator.
And I need a
generator, which is a stationary item.
Right, you are not going to juggle this generator while it's running.
And that's where the joke came from, because it's like, why would you need a 2-stroke generator? And the most off-the-wall thing we could think of was a 2-stroke diesel indoor generator powering a fire alarm.
That's right, yes. It's rated for indoor use only, so that you're filling your house with smoke and using that to power your smoke detector. That was it, yes.
The alarm will continue to go off until something is wrong.
That's true. Actually, in this case, that would be the perfect way to construct an everything's okay alarm, actually. Because the alarm would only cease to go off when the generator died, because otherwise there would be a whole lot of smoke.
A whole lot of smoke, carbon monoxide, oil fumes because it's 2-stroke.
Yeah. Yeah, no, not good.
We actually, during Sandy, we had the foresight to bolt our generator to the stairs.
So it wouldn't swim away.
So it wouldn't swim away and then nobody could take it.
Oh,
because ours has wheels.
That is true. Again, for those of you, and I can't imagine that you exist outside the Northeast who are listening to this, there were some areas where the power was out for like 2 weeks or more following Hurricane Sandy, and you couldn't find any generators or anything.
Or gas.
Or gas, for that matter. It was hard to come by. That's true.
I had to bike ride, bring it back to Slockhurst to NJ Hobby every day to make sure nobody broke the windows.
Oh, wow.
So I couldn't take the car, obviously, because
A, had a limited supply of gas.
I had a limited supply of gas, and B, it was impossible to get around town.
Yeah, because all the traffic lights.
All the traffic lights were down. There were just random wires.
Yeah.
And if you had a bike, you had a better chance of getting to Scotch Plains.
Like you could just go around that stuff.
Yeah, so I had to bike ride from my house in Westfield.
Right, so
all the way
that's probably
to Scotch Plains.
About a 5-mile bike ride.
That's not a short bike ride.
No, it's not. It's about 5 miles each way, and it's hilly, too.
I certainly wasn't going as the wolf runs, because power lines.
Right, so you were trying to follow the streets that you knew were safe.
Yeah.
So
no cars, though.
Yeah, that's true. Not a lot of traffic to worry about.
Oh, man. We've actually had multiple times where the power went out at NJ Hobby. Let's go ahead and end on this. Because we got 5 minutes left before our self-imposed limit here.
My absolute favorite evening of racing at NJ Hobby.
Was it the lightning strike?
Speaking of everything's okay alarms.
Yes, that's the story I was hoping you were going to tell.
So across the street from NJ Hobby is the municipal building for Scotch Plains, which contains the town's only police station, among other things. I guess the mayor's office and whatever.
Court and all that. Yeah.
But so there's a large antenna behind it, that allows the police station to communicate with the police cars, I suppose. But it is the tallest thing in the immediate area by far, because it's a very low-rise shopping area in the center of Scotch Plains, like nothing more than 2 stories. And then this antenna that's probably...
lightning rod, yeah.
Yeah, this antenna that's at least 85 feet tall, which, again, not that tall, but much taller than everything around it. Essentially a giant lightning rod. So a big summer thunderstorm comes through. We're racing something... I want to say we were racing Magnasonics. It doesn't matter. We were racing
something dumb, yeah.
Yeah. A big summer thunderstorm rolled through, the kind that comes and goes in like 10 minutes, and the raindrops are roughly HO slot car sized. And suddenly there is a blinding light that just, stabs us all in the eyes, and followed by a big crash because it was a lightning strike maybe 100 feet away, hit the police station antenna. And the lights went out, but one thing was still powered, and that was...
the Christmas lights.
The Christmas lights in July on the police station, A, and B, a loud alarm to make sure that any criminals in the area knew that the police station had been disabled.
It was an everything was okay alarm that actually... we had a couple power surges that night.
Yeah.
That went through the old power supply, which might explain why that power supply is so done. We haven't used it in literal years.
Yeah.
And I just remember hearing, and then it would dip down and all of our cars would slow down and the lights would dim.
Yeah. But that alarm kept going for a good half hour.
Cops would roll by, look out their window, decide it wasn't worth it, and keep going.
Yeah. Like, I guess they could hear the alarm from wherever they were. I mean, I can't imagine how... I can't describe to you how loud this was. It was loud. I mean, you could hear it probably for several blocks.
For those of you, and again, regional joke, who have seen the Mummers Parade in Philadelphia, roughly that loud.
Yeah, it was loud. It was really loud.
Well, that's fortunately really all we have time for. We kept on topic for a good 30 minutes this time.
Yeah, we talked about a number of topics in the realm of slot cars. So
again, guys, if you're not a scammer who wants to leave a message on our board, if you want to hear us talk about anything specific, what do YouTubers say? Like, comment, and subscribe.
Yeah.
We're hoping to get to 10 subscribers. That's our new goal.
Yeah, well, we're well on our way. We're at, what, 8?
4.
4?
We're at 4.
God damn it.
Guys, have a great week. We'll see you in 2 weeks for something remotely slot car related.